My name's Tim, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Tim.
My home group is in deepest East London. Very glad to be here today, and I'm glad to be getting this out of the way first. The last day I drank, I got up, I went to an AA meeting at lunchtime. I even shared, I can't tell you what I shared, but I shared. I left slightly early because I'd shared, so I was done. What was the point in staying? And as I walked along the road, only 5 minutes from the meeting where I had said, I am an alcoholic, I'm really glad to be sober, and I had said it and meant it. I wasn't saying it through gritted teeth. I wasn't saying it secretly harbouring some sort of reservation. I absolutely meant it. I knew I was in the right place. Anyway, walking along the street, I thought I could do with a pint now, so I went and had one. And as I was sitting there in the pub, I almost felt little horns growing out of the top of my head. I thought, game on. And I had another pint. I went to the off-licence. I bought a bottle of something considerably stronger than a pint. And I sat by the side of the road, waving at the people from the AA meeting as I downed my bottle. And mischief got into me, as it would often do when I was drinking. And I thought, it's 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in West London. What's a person going to do? I was drunk already. I thought, I know, I'll create a diversion. I threw myself in front of a car which was hurtling towards me. And I tell you, I did the trick. It created quite a drama. And the policeman who soon arrested me, once the ambulance people had determined that there was nothing broken, I was merely drunk, he said, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" Now, that wasn't the first time someone had said that to me. "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And I said, because, as I was weeping, AA doesn't work. And the fact is, I'd been going to AA for 6 months at that point, and I was drunk. So by any measure of working, AA apparently didn't work. I wasn't wrong, in a sense. Something in me, however, broke that day. And whereas up to that point, I'd taken a lot of what AA offered, but left a lot of things I didn't like, something in me broke. And I thought, first of all, it's getting harder and harder to even stop drinking when I start again. Secondly, I could be dead within the hour if I drink again. Thirdly, I might not want to come back. The damage it was doing to me at that stage was so severe. My ability to reason, my ability to understand what people were even saying was shot. And whereas I initially stopped drinking because it was getting in my way of what I wanted to do in life, I was just left facing alcohol at that point. And I said to myself, if all AA ever delivers is physical sobriety, let's say I never get any of your wretched promises, let's say I never get a job, let's say I never get myself together, but I've got a roof over my head and a benefit payment and an AA meeting to go to, that's good enough for me. And when I adopted that attitude, a funny thing happened. I stopped relapsing because I wasn't demanding anything from AA anymore. I was willing to show up in AA just a bog-standard, common or garden alcoholic, saying yes to everything that AA offered me. If AA gave me an idea, I believed it. Why? Because AA was saying it, not because I'd thought it through and thought it was a good idea. I believed what AA said because I trusted the people. I'd resigned from the debating society. A friend of mine was on the phone to me this morning. She's just lost a sponsee to a competitor, I think. And the erstwhile sponsee. There's a very funny phrase in the book, the erstwhile erratic alcoholics. This is a still erratic alcoholic, I think. Said he disagreed with many of the things that she had been saying. I thought, oh, you're disagreeing, are you? You're still asking yourself what you think about this, and you're weighing it up, and you disagree. I got to a point where I could not afford to disagree or agree. I stopped saying, even when I agreed with it, I stopped saying I agree, because my agreement was no valuable contribution to whether or not it was true. It was going to be true whether or not I agreed with it. I remember someone said to me, when I said I agree, they said, and if you didn't, where would we be then? That day when everything changed, I was 21. It was 24th of July 1993. I've been sober for 31 years now. And you're quite rightly giving yourselves, as part of AA, a round of applause for that, because it is certainly not because I'm smart or I have any merit or anything. I didn't engineer my own surrender. I didn't bring it about by saying, I'm going to surrender, as it were, at 2:10 this afternoon. Here I go, and then I can't imagine what that would even look like. But I think that the conditions for surrender can be brought about by facing the truth and then saying it. About whatever the problem is, initially alcohol, but a number of other things I've had to gradually stop one by one. I was not someone that could stop all of the behaviours at once. So if you're 1, 2, 5, 15, 20, 25 years sober and there's still a behaviour going on that you wouldn't care to have broadcast at your home group, well, my experience with those things, once I started telling the truth, without judgment, just imparting the truth, it brought it out into the light, and then one by one the behaviours stopped. What I had to do to stay sober for the first year was pretty hairy. There were lots of people around me who were in their first year who had what is referred to as a pink cloud. I didn't have a pink cloud. I had anxiety. I was pretty depressed, and I said to my sponsor, I'm pretty depressed. And he said, I'm not surprised. If I had your life, I'd be depressed as well. I thought that depression was something that happened to me, but it was something I'd carefully fostered and cultivated over the years through my irrepressibly negative thinking and attitude and arrogance and haughtiness, which set me apart from everyone around me, having me look down on everyone, not participating unless I could be the centre of attention, and not caring about anyone but myself. That will depress a person, living like that, and it depressed me. What I discovered in my first year was that as I made sterling efforts to change the only 3 things I could change, which were my beliefs, my thinking, and my behaviour, the emotions started to shift all by themselves without any direct action by me. I changed the things that I can, and I became a very diligent AA in the first year. What does that mean? Lots of meetings, steps, basic steps, nothing sophisticated, nothing fancy. I wouldn't give you tuppence for how I did the steps in the first year. Big book aficionados would furrow their brows, I'm sure, at how I did my step 4. But the funny thing was, even though the performance was shoddy, it was sincere. And you know what? I stayed sober. I really don't think anyone ever slips because they get the technique wrong. It's not a technical exercise, it's a surrender exercise. As long as I tell the truth in step 5, in step 4, and then 5, and then 9. My amends were not elegant. And they didn't work in the sense of bringing all of these people running back into my life, because none of them came back. I didn't restore one relationship, but my side of the street was clean, and I parted company with each of these people on reasonably good terms. They weren't stupid. They weren't going to allow themselves to be bitten twice. They were quite right. Because it took a long time for me to be re-socialised. I was feral when I got sober. And incompetent, which is a horrible combination. It took years for me to learn how to have regular conversations with regular people and just not be a whatever. And it's fine. If it takes a long time, it takes a long time. And in the meantime, there are plenty of people in AA to hang around with who are only thinking of themselves. They didn't notice how unwell I was. They were kind of occupied with their own internal narrative. So it's fine. There are always people to hang out with in AA, which is great. And if you really blocked your copybook at one meeting, there's always another meeting to go to. And whenever I hear someone starting a new meeting, I thought, you've really made some enemies, haven't you? There's literally nowhere you can go, is there? So you're having to start your own meeting. Well done. Only reason I ever started a new meeting is I didn't like anyone. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. I basically did what AA asked me to do, and it worked. Very simple, very straightforward. That's the first trick, is getting through the first year. The second trick is getting through the rest of your life. That's slightly trickier, it seems, because what happened by the end of my first year is I realised I was getting quite good at a few things. I was sober 24 hours a day. I was awake for 18 hours a day. I was starting to pay attention. And I had very, very good teachers around me, people who were 20 and 30 and 40 years sober and very competent at work and in relationships and in all sorts of ways. And I learnt a lot from them. And I'm not denigrating that at all. It's a wonderful thing. But what someone like me will do with the ability to get things done is I made my life my own again. And AA became a place that I would visit because I had to, and visit because I liked it somewhat. But in the same way that with alcohol, game on, with life, game on. Right, now alcohol is out of the way, and I have a tactical advantage over anyone else my age because I'm just sober and they're not. And I've got this amazing guidance and they don't have it. Let's see what I can make of the world. And I was not a big book reader at that time. Very few people in AA were. If you went to a step meeting, it was a 12 and 12 meeting. There weren't any big book meetings in London that I was aware of. It's all very, very different. That's all very, very big book, particularly in East London. But I treated the big book as a little history of AA. I had not realised, because I hadn't read it properly, what it was really saying. And in the foreword to the third edition, it says a very interesting thing. It says the 12 steps which summarise our programme. So the 12 steps on the scrolls are just like recipe titles. They're not the full instructions for each of the recipes behind each of the steps. What is the program? The contents of the book up to page 164. If I'd taken the trouble to read that, I would have saved myself years of, what does it say in the book, alluring bypaths. There's a particular line on page 61 where it says, "Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest happiness and satisfaction from this world if he only manages well?" And I, for a number of years, stone cold sober, lived by the philosophy that all there was the material world. Everything Bill W. said about the realm of the spirit, well, that's just very nice, it's very American, and it's not real, and it's not true. All I've got is what is here. I need to make the most out of the material world: career, house in the suburbs, marriage, pension, investments, holidays, friends, and I sacrificed my life on the altar of those ambitions, and I came very, very badly unstuck. Now, it is not because I didn't do certain things, but when you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning with panic attacks, even someone as unobservant as me will realise something is going wrong here. 8 years sober, panic attacks. This shouldn't be happening. Through a very long, circuitous path, I ended up recommitting to AA properly and saying, I must have missed something. And I went through the big book very, very systematically, using it as a combination of a mirror and an instruction manual. Whenever it described something, I said, is that me? Is that me? Is that me? And then if it told me to do something, I did it. I had become one of those AA cynics who, when people would wax lyrical about how amazing the AA program was, I would sit on the sidelines and say, well, when you've been around as long as me, I was like 9 years or something. When you've been around as long as me, you'll realise that life is a little bit more complicated than that. I had to come down, I had to unwind that position and try the program. Let's see what happens. If I dot every I and cross every T as though I don't know to disagree with it, what happens? And the most amazing thing happened. A fourth dimension opened up. In that, I got the sense that I was far more than just a lump of flesh running around a material world trying to garner as many satisfactions as possible before I died. There was a higher purpose. I would not even necessarily know what that higher purpose was. There's a line in We Agnostics: power, peace, happiness, and a sense of direction. I have a tremendous sense of direction now. I do not know what the direction is, but I sense that there is one. I sense that there is a purpose. My material life is simply the vessel that I happen to be living in. The purpose and function of my life is in my higher power's hands. What is my business then? Because I can't access that. All I have to do each day is say to God, what do you want me to do today? And then get on with it and mind my own business and stay out of my head, because there is no good in there. By my head, I mean the ego and all of the alcoholic thinking. What I get from trying to form a relationship with God, I'm not I don't think, a naturally spiritual person. Some people have had experiences their whole lives and feel very close to Jesus and all of those things, and that's a wonderful thing. I'm not dissing that at all, but I'm naturally extremely unsentimental and very practical. And it's possible, even for someone like me, to have a relationship with a higher power. And I love the line in the book about God is our employer. I know how to have a relationship with an employer. I show up, I say, what do you want me to do? And I do it. And that is the end of it. It doesn't need to be more complicated. It doesn't need to be fancy. I live between pages 84 and 88 of the big book. I try to carry the message to other people, and everything else takes care of itself. And with 10 seconds to go. I'm going to pass the mic back. Thank you for listening.